Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Today I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison on the Asus Transformer Pad 300 versus the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 10.1. Now, I'm going to start off by just letting you guys know I actually had a strong prejudice on which one would win this comparison. I easily thought the Asus would. They're the same price, it's, for $399. And so today we're going to find out which tablet is the best one at $399. The reason why I thought this one would easily be it, just before I did this comparison, was because of the fact that it has a Tegra 3 quad-core processor versus a dual-core processor that Samsung has, which is a TI OpenMap dual-core processor. But let's see if it's true. Alright, so while we're back here, let's just always go over one thing. The cameras is an 8 megapixel versus a 3 megapixel, so you can guess who will win the camera later on, but I'll show you that. Speaker on the back is a mono from Asus, so one poor little speaker that would be really nice if they had another one right here, but just one little speaker right here, whereas the Samsung has them on the front. Around the sides we have the add-ons, such as the Asus comes with a micro SD slot right there and a micro HDMI port there. As for the Samsung, it has a micro SD card slot at the top right here and also has a IR blaster over here. Again, the Samsung speakers are right here on the side, so just already you can guess who won the speakers. Now, in terms of software, Asus definitely goes the stock route, whereas Samsung goes for the TouchWiz interface. This is a definite preference. I do like a lot of things about the Asus stock, more so, such as the folders. You guys know how I feel about the folders. In terms of software that comes with it though, Asus for Samsung definitely gives you a lot more software and even more up-to-date software, such as if I go into Polaris Office, both of them, you'll actually see that Samsung gives you the newer version where Asus still gives you the older one. So just definitely something to note. This is the newest version of the Polaris Office, this is the older version. One thing you cannot do with this one is your Office has to be older. With this one, your Office can be newer or older. Let me zoom into that so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. This one can do a 2007 document, whereas this one has to be 2003 or older. So just an older version of Office, Polaris Office, that comes with it. So in terms of software, I think you get a little bit more with Samsung in terms of the apps they give you built in. Of course, you can always download apps to make that clarify that for you. But I like the stock experience, but I like Samsung gives you better apps that comes with it, I feel. Now, in terms of web browser, let's go to the web browser. Okay. And I'm just going to let it load because for some reason it killed the app when I had it. So just waiting for it to load. In terms of Samsung, I'll show you right now. It's actually pretty quick and responsive when it comes to the web browsing. Very fluid. Whereas the Asus, now I know it's loading, but still guys, I've done this plenty of times already by now. It just has a bit of choppiness to it every once in a while. And this is with loading and without. I mean, trust me, I've done this plenty of times. And it's not as fluid, which surprises me. I just let you guys know, I did put it on the best performance that you can put the Asus on, okay? So it's not even on balance mode, which would have been more fair. I actually wanted it to be at the fastest speed to make sure that it was as fast as it can go. But it just doesn't have it's not as fluid as the Samsung, which don't know why. This isn't the stock browser. Well, it is the stock browser that Samsung comes with, but it's not the stock Android 4.0 browser. So it could be just that they improved upon the original browser, but it's really good for that reason. Other than that, I just definitely would give web browsing to the Asus. To the Samsung. The Asus is not just as fluid in terms of web browsing. Now to the music player. Alright, play this one first.
Change? Shit.
I'll lift it up. Obviously the speaker's on the back, so when I have it down there, it's muffled like no other.
I ain't mad at you.
Which also, most of your cases will muffle it a little bit.
Yeah. All the homies that
Okay, now this one.
Change? Shit. I guess change is good for any of us. Whatever it takes for any of y'all niggas to get up out the hood. Shit, I'm with you. I ain't mad at you. Got nothing but love for you. Do you think, boy? Yeah. All the homies.
So right away, the Asus has a loud speaker, but the fact that it's mono already hinders it, and especially the fact that it just doesn't sound as clear as the Samsung is the second thing. So music overall will be better with the Samsung just because it's definitely clear, and we saw that with the Asus versus the Acer as well. The Acer was a lot sharper compared to the Asus, so that was just something. The Asus it's very loud, but it's just not as clear. So just something that's going to be different between the two. Now let me go into the camera a second, but first we want to go into the videos. So play the video, and let's see how the videos look. Actually, I'll stack it like this, like I normally do for you guys, so you can see them right on top of each other. Alright.
War has started. And we are hopelessly outgunned. Director Fury, I think it's time. You here with the mission, sir? Trying to get back in the world? Trying to save it.
Doctor, I need you to come in.
What if I say no?
I'll persuade you.
What are you asking me to do? It's called the Avengers Initiative. I thought I didn't qualify. Apparently I'm... What is it?
Alright guys, so overall the movies that are going to go to the Samsung as well, for a couple of reasons. One, the screen is better on the Samsung overall, just it's brighter, it has better colors compared to the Asus, just because the Asus still uses an IPS display versus Samsung using a brighter TIFF LCD. As well as the Samsung just always does really good with saturation in colors, so definitely brightness in colors. But you can also turn it to normal to still be bright, but have the colors toned down so they don't look as unrealistic. The other thing is, with the Samsung, you have a better stock player. You can actually change around the sound settings, as well as the speakers on the stereo side versus the mono side are always going to make for a better sound quality when watching a movie. So for movies, it will go to the Samsung. Now in terms of camera, like I said earlier, you can guess which one's going to win this one. Again, we have a 3 megapixel versus a 8 megapixel. So definitely when we go to that, right here on the screen, you could definitely see a difference between the two. Very much so, a lot sharper on the Asus compared to the Samsung. All around the edges you can see almost nothing but fuzziness, whereas here you can see very distinctive, very sharp edges. So very much so sharper. And then right here we see a lot different color reproduction actually. One thing I noticed is the Asus actually overexposed this shot, whereas the Samsung made the colors more true to what they were. The colors do look better, but no doubt about it, it just, for obvious reasons, the sharpness, especially around the circle, are much sharper here than on here. So overall, the camera is going to be better on the Asus. just because of the autofocus camera again versus the fixed focus camera on the Samsung. So in terms of battery life, it would go to the Samsung. Samsung has about a 10-hour battery life, whereas the Asus has about 7 or 8. You can make it up to about 9, barely 10 if you turn it down to a dual-core processor, which, as I've shown you guys before, if you turn it down right here, if you turn this function right here, which is power saving mode, it will only use 2 of the 4 cores, so it will actually become a dual core and have about a 9-hour battery life. No matter what though, the Samsung still wins in terms of battery life, so it's going to last longer. Now in terms of price, they're both priced at $399, so same price there. Now let's go to the review board to see which one will win. Alright guys, so for the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 10.1, it wins for the look and feel. It just definitely feels better to hold. In terms of weight, they're fairly similar. I'm sure there are grams difference, but I can't really tell the difference for the most part when holding it. But I can tell the Samsung definitely feels more comfortable to hold, and just feels better to hold as well. In terms of gaming, this easily goes to the Asus Pad 300. It has a Tegra 3 processor, which means you can play all the Tegra Zone games, as well as every game that's out on Android, basically. So if you're into gaming, you definitely want to go with the Asus. In terms of web browsing, you saw it. I was baffled by it, but Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 wins the web browsing. It's just faster and more fluid. There's no getting around it. In terms of extras, I'm giving that to the Asus Pad. Although they both have a lot of accessories, the fact that the 2 things that come with it for extras are the Asus having the micro HDMI, while the Samsung has the IR blaster for being a smart remote. I just see the HDMI being more valuable than an IR blaster, so I'm going to give the extras to the Asus Pad. In terms of music player, I'm going to go to the Samsung, as well as for movies, it will go to the Samsung. It's just better music, and for movies, just because of the stereo speakers, they stand out better and they're very clear. As where the Asus is loud, it's just loud. It's not as sharp, definitely more distortion, and it's in the back, so it doesn't carry sound as well, especially when outdoors. Now in terms of camera and price, it will go to the Asus Pad. So the camera is obviously going to be better, 8 megapixel versus 3, and for the price you're getting a quad core as opposed to a dual core, so just by price alone it would have to go for the Asus. However, the last category goes to the Samsung. It has a better battery life. There's no getting around it, especially when it comes to standby time. It's one thing Asus has always lacked in. If you do not use your tablet for a long period of time versus Samsung versus the Samsung will have the same battery life if you go to it 2 days later. However, you'll notice the Asus has drained down. So just one thing in terms of battery life, not only does it last longer when using it, it lasts longer when not using it. So the battery life would go to the Samsung Tab, which brings the total to the winner being the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2. Guys, believe me, I have told everyone for weeks now that if I were to get any tablet, it would be the Asus Pad 300 personally. But in this comparison, it really, look, I'm showing you guys side by side, they don't lie. The Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 has more categories on its side, so I would give it to that one. Now, we can argue about look and feel being, oh, well, that's, you know, a preference. It is. And, you know, if the side on the right side is better than the side on the left side for you, then by all means get that. I like gaming, so I might still pick the Asus Pad. I was a little bit disappointed in things like the web browsing and obviously the sound quality, so which leans me towards the Samsung. But it's really your choice. But overall, in the side-by-side comparison, the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 10.1 is the winner. Alright guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. This has been RCKY, the end.